let's talk about the largest pool fraud in history, Woolly Pool, a little bit here and provide some crypto mining pool experience, dev experience from myself, as well as you know, how much of this should you be worried about, how much of it should you be worried about. So this came from Sir Dave 2 days ago on the Kaspa subreddit. It says, attention crypto community, the largest Kaspa pool, Woolly Pool, has been stealing for 6 months 10 to 40% of all coins, practically openly and in plain sight. They boldly and openly lie. They have accumulated huge funds, which could lead to huge market manipulations. Today, they steal from miners, tomorrow from holders. Just one of the found wallets there are 135 million Kaspa coins worth $2 million. The entire Russian internet and YouTube are full of revelations, and my forum threads and YouTube views are approaching 50,000. I'm not even a blogger, just a person who uncovered the scheme. So, you know, even as a content creator, I can tell you, like, the amount of views does not give you any validity. You know, if you're a blockchain dev that has been working on this, if you own and run pools yourself, and you want to show what you do with the pools, and you know, these types of things would be what I would be looking for in your, resume for me to take you seriously. So just to be clear, that doesn't appear to be here. It does say this is going to be a long thread, and all he did was take several transactions with payouts, subtract the time between them, and calculate how much they were paid on average per day, and compared it to MinerStats readings. This is not a good way to calculate. Okay, so if we're talking about the test methodology here, the test methodology of comparing your payout compared to a calculator is almost always going to be inaccurate for a multitude of reasons, including but not limited to, of course, difficulty of the network, latency to the mining pool, the way the pool pays out and the timing of the payouts, right? How often does the pool pay out? That sort of thing. Okay. So if you can always utilize a calculator to judge ballpark range, but you can never be certain that the calculator will be accurate whatsoever, right? This is just going to be the entire premise here. Okay. So I'm not a fan of how it was calculated here, like I said, and we'll just continue to move on though. So on Woolly Pool website, there is a page where addresses and statistics of the largest pool miners are publicly displayed. After analyzing several pages of the largest miners, he said they found the same thing in their payouts. But once again, we're using a faulty calculator, potentially, right? A faulty tool, a potentially faulty tool, usually faulty, by the way, to test something, to test further. So the problem I have with this is you've already started with a flawed testing methodology, and then you're continuing that on. So it's like, I have evidence with a, you know, basically a bad premise, a bad foundation. And so it's like, here's more evidence, but it's still based on sand, right? Not on a solid foundation. On the Woolly Pool website, there's a page where addresses and statistics. He did go over that, compiling all the data he collected, and he posted his video on YouTube. To be fair, I didn't watch this YouTube video. I did watch DeFi Django's video, who's in chat here as well. Compiling all the data he collected. He says he posted his first video. We covered that. Next, using the same method, which, like I said, is already flawed, he conducted a comparative analysis of payouts over the past few days between the 4 largest pools. So all pool percentages coincided with the calculator. This is where I guess we could say, all right, so now we're getting down to where I would say, all right, if you're comparing one pool payout to another pool payout, then yes, we're getting closer to what I would say is verifiable. However, here's where we kind of run into a couple issues too. So let's talk about timing and how long, right? So, because we're going to also have to talk about the way that these pools calculate payouts. He goes on to say all pool percentages coincide with the calculator, while Woolly Pool underpaid by about 35%. This data is available for the period from September 21st to the 25th, as well as the period from September 13th to the 16th. So we have to talk about length of test here a little bit just to give some perspective, because the pool payout methods are going to adjust whether or not each pool pays out the same. And this is because depending on the pool software, if it's built either ground up or if you are, pulling pool software off of, just GitHub and then building on top of that, there's lots of different options. There's not a ton of different options. There are different pool payout methods, which we have covered on this channel multiple times, ranging from PPS to PPLNS to a whole bunch of different variations of all of those. And a lot of what was happening early on was utilizing different pool payouts to incentivize miners to not drop off of pools. Right. And we've talked about this in the past. This meant that if you were the longer you were on a pool, the more payout or heftier your shares counted. This is pretty common to implement across the board. Now, should there be a disparity of 35%? Not necessarily, but it can get as high as that. The amount of time to actually determine this would be based on the back end of whatever pool you're mining to. And so a test for, two separate tests that are between essentially, it looks like 5 days and 3 days, both separated. If it was September 13th through September 25th, maybe I'd be more inclined to say it's a solid test, but I do call into question the amount of time spent mining to these pools, right? And that is really where we kind of run into some issues as far as timing. Now, he does have links to some Google Docs. If you guys want to go check that out, links are down in the description. So he does say that he, using a script he wrote, he found the wallet where the withdrawal of the stolen funds come from their distribution wallet.
Established in 2017, Octominer is an international mining hardware company. They manufacture and engineer the best mining equipment in the industry and supply rigs to some of the largest mining farms around the world. Their GPU mining rigs also integrate with the top crypto operating systems like HiveOS, MinerStat, and Simple Mining. All parts come with an international 1-year warranty. Exciting news! They will be adding ASIC miners for sale to their website soon and launching a new product built specifically for ASIC home miners. Please visit octominer.com or email support@octominer.com for questions.
And here's where we have to explain how a mining pool works so that people are understanding of how this functions. In a mining pool, you essentially have two wallets, okay? And this is where things can get extremely confusing for people that don't understand mining pools. You're going to have your node wallet, and then you're going to have your payment wallet. The reason you have a payment wallet is usually there's multiple reasons why you would have a payment wallet separate from your pool wallet. One being security, the obvious one, right? Because if you have a wallet for your node wallet, it's there. People can kind of find that node wallet. So typically what will happen is the node would find a block. It would go into the node, right? Because you're mining to that node. Remember, the miner is not mining to their own node. They're mining to a node that is controlled by somebody else. Then that node wallet will go ahead, that mining pool wallet gets the full payment. Then it takes that full payment and it sends that full payment out to a payment wallet. Then the payment wallet, using the mining software, will unlock, calculate the shares, and pay out the miners based on the shares it has calculated. Okay. The other reason why you have this is not just security, but because of multiple nodes. Let's say you have a mining pool that has a location in the US, in the EU, maybe US East, West, EU, all these separate ones, right? Well, if a node in the East finds a wallet, but you're mining as part of a pool, you're still wanting to take the take the full hash rate no matter where the miners are. It's still going to need to send that to a payment processor and then calculate the shares across all nodes, right? So it's going to calculate that share across all of the nodes that you're individually mining through. There are other more complicated structures for mining pools, but this is the most simple way that I can explain it to you guys, right? So imagine it this way, right? You have a node here, a node here, a node here, node A, B, and C, right? In different locations. You're mining to node C, and the block is found on node A. The block on node A takes that payment and sends it to a payment processor, right? A payment wallet. And then the mining software will go through, it'll calculate your shares from node C and then still pay you out on that block. So it is not uncommon to see distribution go from the node wallet to an outside wallet. So the real question that we have to ask here then when we get into this is if that wallet is paying out, right? And that is where I started to try to do some research. My research has not fully, calculated out here, but what we can see, we'll refresh here. This is the wallet in question. It's already gone down quite a bit since he originally calculated it, and there were payments coming out of it, right? So here, we'll go down here. We just had one up that showed a payment coming out, but depending on the amount of blocks, it can find a lot of blocks and then pay it out. And now that we're live, I can't find one where they paid out, but fun stuff. Anyways, wallet started paying out from here when I was reviewing this. You saw it on that first page earlier. I should have just left that one up to show the example, but we're not going to be able to show it again, huh? So this is the wallet that I would pay attention to for payouts. I'm not positive this is their payout wallet. I have started going through this to see what their payout wallet is, okay? The reason being that we have to discuss all of this stuff, and I'm getting some issues over here because this is one of the payout wallets, or this was one of the node wallets. The reason we have to talk about all of this, though, is that once you start to understand the way that it functions, you can understand that what happens most of the time when miners aren't getting paid out is there's a miscalculation within the mining software, right? Within the actual code or within the configuration files, or the payment processor breaks. This can happen because the wallet gets stuck in a locked state, right? So if there were too many transactions going through, this is why you'll see like a payment, depending on the blockchain and all that, you'll see basically a time window, like we do payments once every 24 hours or whatever it is, because there's other security parameters that are put into place that can cause these types of things. Some things that happened to me while I was running pools, a wallet gets locked and the mining pool software can't unlock it and process payments. We run an update to the mining pool software because a lot of this is open source, and it changes the fee structure, right? Another really bad thing that could happen is you run an update, your config file gets replaced and it pays out to the wrong wallet entirely, okay? Now, seeing as from what I understand from Woolly Pool, this started to happen around a certain time as confirmed by DeFi Django, and then stopped happening after a certain time. There is the possibility that Woolly Pool ended up in a situation where they pushed an update they shouldn't have that changed their configuration files, and or their wallet got locked out and was not processing payments. These are things that could have happened, okay? A 40% fee or discrepancy, could that have happened? Yes, it could have. Am I positive that that's what happened? No, I have to do some more research. But the testing methodology here, the single address that appears to be probably a payment address, right? These aren't sufficient grounds for me to these aren't sufficient grounds for me to condemn Woolly Pool right off the bat. The question will be, is do they make the users whole, right? And this is where I guess there's still some questions. Some things that I'm worried about, for example, on this in particular, is that Woolly Pool has not been addressing this on their Twitter very much. The only thing that I've seen is that due to a database issue that happened on 20th through the 25th period, they're making the recalculations now. So this could also have been a crashed database, and they recovered the database and it didn't pay out. So a database usually in mining pool software is keeping track of what? It's keeping track of shares, okay? So when you are mining, you're getting shares. Shares are a completely centralized idea. They are not decentralized at all whatsoever. You are completely dependent on basically a SQL database for tracking those shares and then submitting them to a script that runs through a payment processor, okay? So as you're mining, those shares are basically going into a database. You're dependent on Woolly Pool's databases being up to date and accurate. And what it appears to be here to me is that Woolly Pool's databases were not up to date and were not accurate, right? That's what it appears to me to be. If they fix that, good. How do you make users whole here? That can be a little bit more complicated. If they've lost the database data, right, completely, it would be nearly impossible for them to go through and figure out what they owe to each individual miner. So this is going to put obviously a huge black mark on Woolly Pool. And if you aren't, this is one of the reasons people ask me, like, why don't you run pools? Path to hell is paved with good intentions. I don't necessarily think that Woolly Pool is doing anything here intentionally. I think that they basically had a poor process put in place. They didn't perform their due diligence on upgrades, and they did not have proper updates running on their databases. This is why when you get into pool infrastructure, you need to have a full IT team. You need to have cybersec professionals, you need to have networking professionals, you need to have database professionals, and all of it should be treated from a mining pool infrastructure setup as you would treat basically the most sensitive of data, meaning like it should be treated like you're a banking data center. That's how it should be treated, because that is what you're messing with here. And if you do not have the capability of doing that, and if you do not have like literally like 15-minute incremental backups on your databases for tracking shares, then you need to either reconsider what you're doing or hire some outside professional help. That is how I would put this, okay? Once again, do I think Woolly Pool is scamming you? No. Do I think they made a mistake here? Yes. Do I think they'll make you whole? That's where I don't know if it's even physically possible for them to do so. Because if they've lost the database data, then you are screwed, okay? That's it. That's pretty much what it comes down to. I would not throw shade directly at Woolly Pool and say that they're stealing stuff, especially because we've already seen the balance on the wallet in question come down, okay, by over $500,000, by over $500,000, okay? So, you know, if this starts getting funneled, right, like if this starts getting funneled to an exchange, then we can start bringing up questions as to what is going on. There could technically still be a reason for it going to an exchange, I suppose. I know, for example, that, well, or coming out of an exchange, I guess. I know that for me in particular, when we had the Pearl pool hacked, what I had to do was buy a bunch of Pearl and then send it to the payment processing wallet, and then that wallet finished its payment processing. But we didn't have database errors because we had database backups, right? So we didn't have any errors within our shares, so the shares were completely up to date. The wallet was just drained by a hacker, okay? So a little bit of a different situation here. Whereas right now, what it appears is the payment processor can't, doesn't have the data to process the transactions. So that is so far what I can tell you. And then Rockefeller says we asked for Woolly Pool to explain it, and the thing is like I can explain it because of what they explained here. Okay, meaning, if you have any experience in IT and you've worked with IT guys, all I am is the interpreter of the IT guy. I can tell you exactly what's happening because I have an intimate knowledge of how this works. Okay. And then I do have that knack, luckily, like the reason why I think a lot of y'all watch is I have that knack of being able to explain a complicated process in an easy to understand manner and articulate it, right? And so all I'm doing is articulating what the problem could be with Woolly Pool, and this isn't a condemnation, nor is it an absolution of Woolly Pool, right? Once again, if they do not have proper, and to me, when you say you have a database issue, then I'm wondering, is there data lost in that database, right? Or is that database there? Can you restore it and restore the payments? But like, let's say there was a database issue and you were mining during a database crash and then the database was restored, then those shares weren't being tracked for that time that the database was crashed, right? So in that case, there wouldn't be a physical way for them to repay, to my knowledge. Now, if you're a miner on Woolly Pool and you pull it up and you have a certain amount of shares, right, and you aren't getting paid out what those shares should calculate out to, then at that point, then I would assume that the shares are obviously what happens, like when you go to a website, right, or a mining pool website. Let's go to Woolly Pool, right? And you go to, you look at, let's see, does it actually show shares in here? See, this is a problem. I don't think they show shares. Yeah, they don't. They just show effort. So actually, I don't like this. If I was, let's see, it just shows you last share. It doesn't show you total share count. So I would go back to the dates in question. Probably. Let's see. These are all. See, okay. So we have another problem here, guys. This miner looks pretty new, or his shares are lost, right? So this is saying that March 5th of 2023 is when this miner was mining. So I'm actually curious. Showing total shares would tell us a little bit better, but let's go through this. Let's go through this and see if we can find, nope, wrong way. A miner that, I was going to try to open a new tab. So no, not that. It's fine. A miner that goes beyond that. Nope, not that. I just want to see the miner, right? So I want to go here. What do I click to go to there? Sorry. Oh, miners. I got to keep clicking this tab. Okay, let's go here. Let's go to shares. Yeah, this is concerning, okay? What's concerning to me here is that all of their shares don't go back further than today. And this miner has been mining for a week. So why that is concerning is, like, if this miner's been mining for a week, we should see shares. I mean, now they only show 10 pages, so maybe they have a limit on this, right? So when they're pulling from the API that's pulling from the database and saying a share was submitted on this time, right? Maybe because they don't want to have a bunch of pulls on their database, they're saying only show shares, last shares for the past 24 hours or whatever it is. So looking at the pool, I can't really determine if there was a lapse in recording of the shares, or a glitch in the recording of the shares, but that could have been possible as well. So, that is where we're at as far as that's concerned. Something definitely happened. More than likely, what it looks like to me is the database went down and they didn't have incremental backups on the database. How they handle this is obviously going to be a problem too, but I'm not going to get into the drama of it. I'm very aware of, like, if pool ops feel like they're doing the right thing, they're under a lot of stress and they're working a lot, they're going to be rude. It doesn't condone that. It's just like, understand where that's coming from, right? Understand where that's coming from. Luckily, as cryptocurrency miners, it's very, very, very easy to go ahead and switch pools, right? Here's where I think things are weird, okay? What they have said now is that there's a recalculation going on. Okay, so let's talk about what that means and what more than likely is happening here. Okay. This is where somebody could actually come into the system and really F this up for Woolly Pool. You guys need to know this information, but you also need to understand that if you do this, it's highly unethical. Okay. Okay. I'm going to make this extremely clear. You need to understand this information, but if you go do this, it's highly unethical and highly questionable, right? More than likely, because they are recalculating, this is what's happening. Remember, we have a database that stores the shares that you are getting, okay? That you're earning on the pool. So I think what they'll probably do is they probably have a record of all the miners that were connected to the pool prior to a database crash or an error with the database. Okay. Now, if they want to pay those miners out, they need to calculate the percentage of work those miners were doing during that time. Okay. Then they can create basically a fake database to feed the payment processor. Most likely the reason why the payment processing wallet has probably changed. Okay. They've most likely stood up another mining pool software with a separate wallet that now the money is going to. On the old one, they've probably locked the wallet and they're trying to determine the percentage of which for each one of for that wallet needs to go to essentially all the miners. So what does that mean? Well, they're probably taking and saying, okay, these were the miners that were mining. Let's see what their hash rate is now. And depending on the percentage of hash rate of the pool that they currently have is what will pay out when we process the payments on the old mining software. This means if you were mining on Woolly Pool prior to the database crash, okay, and you now turn on more hash rate than you had prior, it's going to mess up the calculation for that payment processing. Once again, I said it's unethical to do so, but that's where this gets into a very tricky position. This is also why they probably won't tell you exactly what's happening until after, because if that information was leaked, then there are people that would game the system. For example, throw a bunch of extra hash rate through NiceHash or something along those lines on a particular wallet address that was mining on it beforehand so that they can basically garner the entire payout that didn't go through because the database was crashed. Okay. So, once again, I do not think that Woolly Pool is doing anything intentional, but I think this is also why they are keeping it hush-hush. Because the way that you recover this is very tricky, and there's not a way for them to guarantee it. So that's how you would game this. That's probably what they're trying to avoid. It does sound like a database crash. If we look at, once again, if we look at the history of the last shares, it doesn't go back further than today. Which tells me that at least the API that is pulling data is not pulling data from older than today, which means it is quite possible there's a brand new database right now. Okay. Which means they rebuilt from the ground up and there's a brand new database. Probably a brand new wallet for the payment processing as well. Yeah. There you go. That's as much as I can deep dive into that for you guys right now. Hopefully it gives you a better understanding of how this stuff functions. And, you know, it is what it is. I think Woollypool's going to lose a lot of credibility, regardless. I don't think there's any, I don't think that there is any reason to go be rude to the devs or anything like that at this point. You know, at this point, decentralization is going to play its part. Capitalism will play its part here, right? Like, people are going to move off the pool when they don't trust it. We see this all the time. Okay. Let that happen. No personal attacks are needed. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Crypto Mining Show. You can check out the full episode here or more crypto content down here. Also, I'd like you to check out my locals page at sonofatech.locals.com, where you can become a member for free or choose to be a $5 a month supporter that unlocks additional content.